Benvenuti, sono Luca Tremolà del Sole 24 Ore, siamo in compagnia con Keith Stryer, vicepresidente AI Worldwide Service di Nvidia. Nvidia è una grandissima azienda americana che si occupa di GPU e di intelligenza artificiale ed è, oltre a essere quindi vicepresidente, è anche nel committee, nell'advisory di Joe Biden, del presidente degli Stati Uniti, ed è anche co-chair, co-presidente di una task force dell'Ocse che è chiamata a studiare, ad analizzare l'impatto dell'intelligenza artificiale sull'ambiente e sui governi e sulla popolazione. Allora, Keith, thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us. And could you tell us something about you, about your interest in artificial intelligence?
Sure, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you. Well, look, like everyone else, I grew up in the movies, right, and television. Betsy from the Jetsons, the Robot Maid, and all the way through Star Wars. All these science fiction portraits of AI obviously filled my brain with what AI could be or will be. I didn't take AI seriously or really understand the many contours of AI until 2016. I was a partner in a global consulting firm working on digital strategies for customers in the public and private sector. And that was around the time that the World Economic Forum released its report on the fourth industrial revolution. And that really put AI on my radar. And it was clear to me at that time and during that year that AI increasingly emerged from this academic pursuit to a business opportunity. It was still early, but the signals were getting louder, as it should be for everyone now.
What's your favorite movies talking about artificial intelligence?
Well, I'm sorry?
Your favorite movies?
Oh, my favorite movie. Well, Steven Spielberg did a beautiful movie on AI, and I think it's a real classic. And I think he the way he portrayed AI, and the most importantly, the conflict in society as AI moved into robotics and more humanoid sort of humanoid looking robotics, and the different emotions it would evoke in us as we had machines that sort of started to approximate humans, and that whole genre of thinking. And I think it was a very complex movie that foreshadowed the questions we're asking today.
Okay, after 2 years of work, your committee just released a new report this week. The title is A Blueprint for Building National Capacity to Compute AI. So before we go deeper into this report, can you explain what AI compute means?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. This is a deceptively complex topic. Even within industry, there's few generally accepted definitions of these terms, which is a problem. But after consulting over 50 experts in many domains, the OECD landed on the following definition, which is that AI compute is one or more stacks of hardware and software used to support the specialized AI workloads and applications in an efficient manner. Now, all computers are stacks of hardware and software, and classical computers are built around a CPU. High-performance computers or supercomputers, they're called super because they can do things that ordinary computers cannot. And they have this specialized stack of hardware and software that can deliver the computational power that we need to train AI models to be AI models. And they can do it very efficiently. And just to really explain why efficiency matters, consider streaming movies, right? Back in the 90s when the internet was first born, we had dial-up modems, right? And these worked. But if you were downloading a movie, if it was even possible to download a movie, it'd probably take a week. So it wasn't very efficient or very practical. It really wasn't until it was possible to download movies in minutes versus days that it became possible to build an entire new industry, to transform entertainment, right? The speed of that connection made it possible. And that's where we are now with computers. Things that used to take a warehouse full of computers, consuming a tremendous amount of energy, but also taking a lot of time. What used to take months can now take minutes. And in some cases, a model that might take an entire human lifetime can now be done in hours to days. And so that's really been the threshold we've crossed over with compute.
Right, I think artificial intelligence is transforming our economies and our society. Many countries, Italy is one of them, created a national AI strategies. Is it true that no country today have data on their domestic AI compute capacity? Is that a problem? Is that something that we should solve?
Yeah, no nation on the earth today, no country, no government, has the data that they need to answer just fundamental questions, right? How much compute capacity do we have? Are we using it effectively? Is it resilient? How does it compare to other nations? And perhaps even most importantly, do we have enough to support our national AI plans? So imagine you're a minister of health and you're developing a 5-year plan to ensure your nation not only can serve the healthcare needs of your population, but you want to be prepared, right? You want to have the readiness to respond to a future crisis like we had in the COVID pandemic. Doing this would be impossible, right? It's inconceivable that you could do that without data. If you don't know how many hospitals you have, basic stuff, right? How many nurses, how many doctors, how many ICU beds, how many ventilators, right? Without this information, you can't make a plan. You don't know how much you need to budget, how much to invest, how much to buy, how much to build. So it is this basic lack of information. That is the case for every minister of digital, every minister of ICT, every nation on earth does not have the ability to answer these basic questions when it comes to AI infrastructure. And so that's the gap the OECD has been trying to close.
Could you help me to understand what is the main value of Blueprint for government and for industry also?
Yeah, well, this is so we're very optimistic, and of course we're very ambitious on wanting to close this gap and to do it well. But again, the lack of data and the lack of commonly understood terminology has made it a challenge. So the starting point for us, the starting point for the OECD was to provide this blueprint. And the blueprint does something that has never been done before, which is it provides a roadmap. It provides the ability for governments to ask the right questions to build their plan so that they can start to understand the different dimensions of what they have and what they don't, and that they can connect that to their economic plan. So they can look at what do they have, where do they want to go, and are they putting in place the capacity they need? Some of that capacity will come through partnerships with global companies. Some of that capacity will come through buying and putting technology into their own data centers. It could be through collaborating with local companies in their ecosystem. There's many ways to do that. The OECD is not prescribing one approach or one way to do it, but it's making sure for the first time that countries do develop a strategic plan for their national capacity to compute AI. And with that, they can then make the proper budgets and priorities to build the capacity they need. Since right now, including Italy, no country on earth has that. So we're closing that gap and we're helping the policymakers make better decisions.
Do you think today we have a different way between China, Europe, and the USA to address to artificial intelligence, or it's a problem for all?
Well, back to 2015, which is really when we began this journey, this global sort of imperative at the national level to focus on AI. China was one of the very first countries to do that. I think Canada was actually the first country to issue a national AI plan, but shortly thereafter, just a few months later, China issued their sort of strategy as well. And now at this point, most countries have issued, 70 or 80 countries, I believe, have issued a national AI strategy. And there's still many more working on them. And in some cases, they're on their second or third generation of strategy. But most countries are shifting now from having a strategy to implementing the strategy, right? And whether it's China, the Europe, or the US, you do see a common sort of national imperative from the top down, from the head of state down, making this a public policy priority for the benefit of the nation and for their individual policy goals. Every nation's different. They all have different priorities. They're all investing in different ways, but there's a shared sort of imperative across all nations. And I think that's I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Of course, it's impossible to talk about artificial intelligence and not talk about Chat GPT. This tool, this service was released 2 months ago, and now is 100. They have 100 million users in only 2 months. Is the adoption is the fastest in the technology history. Well, what do you think about this technology? What do you think about ChatGPT and the impact for the business?
This is 100% an inflection moment. And it's not just for technology or for the AI field. It's for the world, it's for government, it's for societies. It raises incredible opportunities and many important questions. The technology behind ChatGPT, referred to as generative AI and large language models, these are not new technologies. They have been around for years. But ChatGPT itself, which is has been wrapped, they took this complicated technology and they wrapped a simple user interface around it, and they made it available for free on the public cloud. And that was a brilliant, if innocent, move that has put a dent in the universe, right? So the truth is, nothing has democratized AI more than the public cloud, creating this very affordable, accessible way for computing to be unleashed, right? But ChatGPT has, in its own way, taken this very complex technologies called AI and also made it accessible and easy to use through the cloud. And so this really, and obviously it went super, super viral. And everyone from corporate CEOs to prime ministers have been inspired and touched by this technology. I mean, AI suddenly has become a little more real, more usable, and more relevant to our everyday lives. So this global policy imperative around AI has been around, as I mentioned, since 2017. But ChatGPT has been like rocket fuel. It's just turbocharged sort of this and resonated across every capital and really every corporate boardroom, prompting a new sense of urgency to understand and harness AI. And in particular, it has brought to surface, the importance to understand the specialized compute infrastructure that makes AI possible, because that, which is a perfect intersection with this new OECD report, to make sure countries and companies are asking themselves, do we have the technology infrastructure we need in place to support the longer term goals that we want? Historically, the thinking has been that computing is essentially infinite. It's infinitely available, and that's mostly true, I would say, for classical computing. But this high performance computing, this specialized computing, it's finite. It's not infinite. And countries and companies are discovering, to achieve the goals to really participate in the age of AI, they need to plan out.
Should government regulate this field, the artificial intelligence? How?
Well, public-private collaboration is essential for AI, not just for the development, but for the responsible use of AI. AI is a general purpose and a dual-use technology. What that means, it has the potential for bringing incredible benefits to humanity, transformational for business and society, but that same technology, if misused or engineered without the right considerations, can also cause harm. Governments need to govern. They need to develop the guardrails and the policies that protect citizens, if not humans, and the environment from the application of this technology in irresponsible or malicious ways. And industry plays a key role in both the development and application of those policies. So yes, they need to work together. And I think we're seeing very good evidence of that collaboration in every corner of the globe. The OECD committee that I co-chair has a great blend of public and private sector experts, as do most of the advisory committees in most countries from the US to Australia. So I'm encouraged to see the progress on this front, but there's much, much more work to be done to mitigate the risks and to ensure that AI remains a beneficial innovation.
Last question about the positive and the negative effect of AI. I mean, the green impact of server computer. What do you think? The AI could help the planet?
Well, this is one of these dual use narratives, and we could need a whole nother hour on this topic. But let's touch on some key points. It's a great topic. I mean, first, to develop AI, and the term used is training, right? When you train an AI model, which is literally teaching it, letting it consume the information to build the neurons within its digital brain, consumes a lot of energy. It's also important to put in perspective that AI still remains a very, very small part of the landscape. So if the total footprint of the IT sector today is somewhere between 2 and 4% of the world's emissions, AI is a fraction of that, maybe 0.01 or 0.1%. It's a very small number of the total greenhouse gas emissions. So it's not material today, but going forward, as AI adoption grows, the world needs to be aware and to look for and promote these green practices, right, to offset that growing carbon footprint. I think the answer is going to be a combination of sort of sustainable computing, green data centers, and more efficient data science techniques. Together, that's going to make a big difference.
So are you optimistic about the impact?
I'm optimistic, not only because I know that there's a lot of energy and, frankly, investment being poured into greening out data centers and growing the adoption and the advancement of computing architectures to make them more sustainable. I'm not only optimistic because of that, and I see that every day, but I'm also optimistic that AI itself as a tool will be one of the ways that the humanity will understand and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Everything from the transition from fossil fuels to renewables, the ability to improve urban planning using very sophisticated digital twins that can simulate the physics of Earth, the ability to help communities to identify and mitigate the risks of natural disasters and then to respond to them and even recover from them. Artificial intelligence in different forms can play a key role in all of those areas of the world and in all those different ways that we need to address the impact of climate change. So I'm actually quite optimistic that AI will be a much more positive than negative force in that way.
Thank you. I agree with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you to be with us, and see you next time, maybe in Italy or in Europe.
Thank you very much. It was great to be here.
Bye.